Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neuro-Inclusive DogPod, the podcast where we bridge the gap between neurodiversity and the dog world. Today, I've got another fantastic guest for you, and I'm really, really excited to chat to this person because it's the first gundog person we have had on the podcast. So, hello, Nina. Could you start by telling everybody who you are and what you do?
Hi, yes, I'm Nina. I'm from Confident Canine, or I run Confident Canine in Essex, and I specialise in working with gundog breeds holistically.
Amazing. So what was it that got you into gun dogs? Was it something you always wanted to get into, or was it a dog that started it off? How did that work?
No, it was my daughter's fault. Yeah, so I actually didn't have any plans to get any dog at the time. I'd been brought up with cats. I love all animals, but I didn't have a plan for a dog. But my daughter, from literally the moment she could open her mouth, was just like dog, 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 dog. So she turned 18. She was still living at home, and I said, sure, if you want to get one and you want to pay for it, look after it, I'm happy to have it here. I love animals. Great. Went and got this lovely long-haired Weimaraner lad from a lady in Essex, and they basically came home and then just chose me. And so I tried to sort of back off and let my daughter do things, and it was just something we couldn't do anything about. So in the end, I did end up sort of taking him out and starting to do things with him, and it went from there. And she had to wait for our next dog for her dog.
Yeah. I know, it's amazing, isn't it? We always say that, though. We always have a kind of a dog that starts it all off, and I think in a way they kind of choose us for a reason, don't they? I suppose if that hadn't happened, you might not have gone down this path that you've gone down. So I do think there is some kind of truth in that. Do you?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in you get the dog you need, definitely, even when it doesn't feel like it. They have such brilliant lessons for us. And actually, with my first boy, I'd been through quite a lot before we got him, just in general in life. And he really taught me to smile again. He was like this cheeky chappy that would do just naughty things. And, at first, when looking for trainers, I was getting a lot of the wrong ones. Because, the gundog world's a bit different. And I didn't know any better at the time. But actually, he was just a cheeky chappy who wanted to have fun, and so he really taught me to smile and to find fun in stuff that goes wrong and random things they do, and to just be able to laugh and smile a lot more when I'd stopped. So he was definitely there for that.
Amazing. So we touched on it a little bit there, but when it comes to gundog world, shall I say, they can be quite traditional, can't they? And it can sometimes seem like they're taking a little bit of time to catch up. So when it comes to the work you do, that's why I'm so excited about having you on the podcast, because I'm like, amazing. Gundog completely aligns with everything that I align with as well. So when it comes to the traditional gundog training and the gundog world in general, do you think it is catching up a little bit? Have you seen any shifts? How are you finding that kind of world at the minute?
Yeah, definitely been massive changes over the years. I think it's still got a long way to go, and I do think it is behind some of the other spheres of dog training. I think it's catching up a bit slow, but there have definitely, and there are some really good, positive, reward-based, not just gun dog trainers, but who have started their own systems and things like that, who are really good. And they are making massive changes. Obviously, things like Clicker Gun Dog, all brilliant, but when I had my boy, I remember going on a working test, and what had happened with me is I went through a lot of traditional trainers, because as a gun dog owner for the first time, you just think, right, well, I need to find a gun dog trainer to help me, because in all honesty, I'd gone to lots of other trainers and they just didn't understand my dog. But when I found the gun dog trainers, I didn't know there were different ways to train at all. So essentially I ended up with lots of what I now feel are the wrong types of trainers. But I do remember going on a working test after I discovered positive reward-based training and was having a great time, and I think it was my boy's daughter, and actually using treats in part of a working test, but we weren't being tested at the time. It was just like end of exercise type of thing, and it was puppies, so you want to keep it all good. And I actually got openly berated in front of everyone and told that they didn't want to see those treats coming out again at any point. And my girl had just done something really beautifully, and I was really pleased with her. So I just carried on treating on the sly. But it just seems crazy to me that you would even bother about something like that if it's going well and the dog's doing well, and you know there's no reason why you can't treat it's practicing, it's, you know, not an actual test scenario. It was like, I don't know, working test practice type thing. That you would get so hung up on the fact that a dog has been rewarded is just mind-blowing to me.
It is.
And thankfully by then I'd got to the point where I would stand up for her or me, or happily just kind of do things on the quiet. But with my first dog, I wouldn't have been able to do that because I didn't have that confidence. And so he then wouldn't have got rewarded for the rest of the day. And it would have completely changed what we came away with. And I find that crazy.
It is hard as well, isn't it? I suppose as well, looking at it from a neurodivergent point of view, it is, because I think I remember being in classes where I have been in similar situations where I wanted to reward my dog more, I wanted to interact with them more, but it's kind of like someone makes a comment, or don't keep rewarding them all the time, or you're not. I went to an agility competition once, and it was many years ago now, and Flash, my middle dog, he actually left the ring to go and chase some birds. So yes, fair enough, it wasn't the ideal situation, but when he came back, he came back and I'd interact with him and I rewarded him, and I rewarded because you've got like that 3 second time frame for him coming back, and I remember getting shouted at going, no, you are rewarding him for chasing the birds, and I'm like, and you're not. I didn't say anything because I wasn't confident, and I was just like stood there and took this telling off, and I was like, in my brain I was like, I'm not, I've got this 3 second window to reward him, I'm rewarding him for coming back. I didn't say anything at the time. I just like let this woman make me feel like rubbish, and then you question it, even though you know that you're doing right. I think your neurodivergent brain goes, oh, everybody else knows better than me, and it's hard, isn't it, to kind of stick up for yourself,
especially if you're like a newish owner as well. You know, most new owners, you know, won't argue with the trainer or won't say how they feel. Like I'll often in lessons I'll be like, you know, and does that make sense, and how do you feel, and does that work for you, and you know, but I didn't find that was the case at all. I mean, even in all honesty, I had one positive thing I went on where I came home crying. I cried driving home, and that was before I knew I was neurodivergent. And what had happened was, the lady was talking to me, and so I couldn't do what I was supposed to be doing with the dog because I couldn't split my focus. So I stopped what I was doing with him to ask her something, and then she basically shouted at me in front of everyone for like ignoring my dog when he was trying to get my attention and work with me. And I at that point didn't even know why I couldn't multitask. I didn't know how I worked. I just knew I couldn't, and it was awful. It was really embarrassing, and it was supposed to be a positive reward based, like click a day. I was mortified.
I know. So, I think that's one of the reasons why I want to do this and raise more awareness of neurodiversity, because I think this is it. Even in the positive world, we've got such a lot of catching up to do, and neurodiversity isn't openly spoken about and isn't allocated for want of a better way of rephrasing it, like you say there, you know. And I think because I didn't know it at the time, but when I was doing classes, I set things up that I would find easy to use. Like, for example, we'd have boundary beds and we'd have other things. So if I was interacting with the owners, I'd say, oh, let's put the dog on the boundary, let's give them something to do while I spoke to them, because I was subconsciously, I suppose, doing it because I knew that's a way it would work for me. But then when I was going to classes myself, I was like not having any of that. And like you say, it is really hard to split your focus when you're like trying to take in information, but you're concentrating on what your dog's doing and making sure you're treating them, rewarding them, you're keeping that relationship kind of thing. So I do think, like you say, it is even in the positive world. I think we've put so much focus on the dog and what we're meant to be doing with the dog. We don't actually make answers for the humans, and it's bad really, because like neurodivergence, we won't speak up and we won't we won't go, actually I'm doing this because of this. We don't like that confrontation.
Suffer in silence. So
just we'll
kind of shrink back, don't you?
And so we'll either sit there and just not say anything and take it and feel completely awful, like you're saying, and cry on the way home or whatever, or we won't go back to that place. And because and I think it's one of the biggest bugbears of mine at the minute is the positive dog training world is slating online training, doing, and yes, I do agree, you know, we don't use aversives, there's, you know, that kind of thing. But like you're saying, if you are a new owner, and even if you're a neurodivergent new owner, you just want help with your dog, and they come into classes and they're trying the best, but then you're making them feel a certain way, they're not going to come back, and then they're going to go online and go to these people because you're not making it an inclusive space where they feel
absolutely
and stuff. So
I get a lot with the owners that I work with, and you probably get the same, where obviously divergence is it's massive. There's a huge spectrum to it, but there is a good recognizable set that come to me where we'll have started, and so I'll have you know, spoken about how, you know, you want to pick these moments, capture them, all that kind of thing, for maybe, like, you know, dogs who aren't engaged, etc. And then what I will find happens is I'll be explaining an exercise we're about to do, but dog and owner wander off as the owner's like engaging with their dog, trying to do what I've asked them to do. But if you don't recognize that that's what they're doing, they're not being rude and just, you know, turning their back and dismissing what you're saying. They're trying to do the right thing. And you just kind of have to wait and repeat and kind of guide them back in. But to the outside, you know, that would be me on that training day being had a go at for doing something where I'm trying really hard. I'm trying to do what you've told me I should do. But I mean, at that point I was doing the opposite, because I couldn't work with the dog and listen to the lady. But no, quite often it can be completely misunderstood what you're trying to do, and you're trying to do the right thing. And you get called out for not doing the right thing.
And as well, I think it's sad, isn't it? And I think it's like people don't understand that it's another one of these things that I can't get my head around. Like in the positive world, we're in the positive dog world, should I say? We're all going, oh yeah, we need to treat the dog this way. We need to, you know, make sure that their emotions and all of this kind of thing, which is completely right. But we know that they have such a huge connection to their owners, and they smell our emotions. They pick up on our body language. So I'm like, I can't understand how trainers aren't seeing this as part of their duty, I suppose, to understand the human part of it and make them feel a certain way, because otherwise their dog's going to not respond appropriately, because they're like, in a weird mood, she smells weird, she's stressed, all of this kind of thing. And I think, to me, it just completely blows my mind, like how, yes, it's good that we focus on the dog, and I think that's this whole new side of it. Even with neurotypical people, they might be anxious, they might be worried because the dog's overexcited or a little bit naughty or whatever however they want to call it. But then it's like this another layer to it of neurodivergent people that are just coming to your classes and that are feeling all manner of different things. And then we're stuck in this is the way we do it, this is the way we've always done it, you know. And I've mentioned about this before on the podcast, where in agility, it's typically where you go in, you walk a course. Usually everybody knows each other, so if you're an outsider, it's a bit clicky anyway, so that's awkward. But then the trainer's often there, I don't know, grabbing a cup of tea or something. They've set the course out and they're like, you just go and walk it, I'm just doing my own thing. And then you walk the course and they'll put you on the spot and they'll go, how are you going to do this? Or, you know, they'll pick a random person. And for me, I absolutely hate that. Even now, with the level that I'm at in agility, I'll still go, don't know. Or what I'll do is I'll look what someone else did, and I'll say how they're going to walk it, even though it won't be how I'm going to walk it, because I'm like, well, at least if I say that, then they're going to back me up because I've seen them do it, even though it's completely like not what I'm going to do. And it's only these probably the last few 6 months where I'm actually speaking up, which is ridiculous to say.
Well done, though. You know, no, I mean, I'm still there with the, you know, I'll be on all sorts of days and you'll never see me put my hand up. And I mean, I recently redid my first aid courses back in Feb. I've lost count of how many I've done, like so many over the years. And I'll answer the questions all in my head, but I'm never going to put my hand up. Like, you know, it's never going to happen.
Just mad, and, it is. And I often think as well, because we're from the agility world as well, because a lot of the people I go into the groups with, they know, they're friends with me on Facebook, they know what I do, and my RSD kicks in and I'm like, they're going to think I'm a really rubbish trainer and I don't really know what I'm doing, because I, you know, as this behavior specialist, I should know this, but it isn't. It's because I'm just not confident enough, because, you know, there's so many, I can't remember the statistics, but isn't it, as a neurodivergent, we grow up and we have so many thousand either criticisms or perceived criticism before we get to about 7 or something. I think it's just subconsciously our brain is going, protect yourself, don't say anything. And it's like, sometimes you think,
and that's without the ones we add to ourselves, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, the ones that we turn around and say to ourselves, where we're like, oh, we're not good enough and we're not doing this properly and we're failing at this and not great at that, and so does this better. And
Yeah. It's surprising that the dogs have a chance of doing anything right, isn't it, when we've got all of this stuff going off in our head?
And that is the other thing where you were saying about people ignoring like the human side of things. It's like I've literally, because obviously my holistic side, so a lot of people will think holistic trainer like, oh, maybe I talk about food and diet and all those kind of things. It's like, you know, yes, they're part of, you know, the whole picture, but for me the holistic side is heavily about energy work. And honestly, the amount of times that I've worked with a dog and an owner and something's going on, really good example would be, say, I've got a few, but the other week, Guy and his lovely Labrador not really engaged, quite switched off, looking to the outside world rather than him. Ended up just giving them a task of like a couple of minutes of mindful walking. He'd never done it before, so I walked him through it with the dog. They're doing this little mindful walk, literally finished the walk, and then the dog's engaging, he's in front of him, he's wagging at him, he's looking at him, and it was just the reset of the energy for the owner. Loose lead walking so many times, like I'll see a dog struggle and then we'll work on the owner and reset the owner, and then the dog's like, great. And you think if they go to somebody who's not recognizing how much we play a part in what happens with our dog, that dog's being worked on all lesson for like an hour or something, like this task and that task and how are we going to fix it and blah blah blah, and actually you could have done something small with the owner and halved whatever difficulties they were having. And I never say that accusatory, because obviously, you know, with my divergence, I have my ups and downs as well. My dogs definitely tell me when I'm having those. And a lot of people get really defensive about it, and I can understand where it comes from. But at the same time, like, we have not just a responsibility to the dogs to acknowledge that we play a role in how they're feeling, but also, like, if we can take that in the right way, it's hugely empowering that we do have a whole bunch of stuff we could just do for ourselves that's going to help our dog immensely, massively. And that's just not happening. You know, people, for the majority that I see, it's like, this is how you do this for your dog, and this is how you do this with your dog, and this is how you train XYZ. And
definitely. And I think with that as well, I think it's interesting as well, because the dog training world has come up from a place of like, we teach our dogs skills and behaviors and stuff, and that's kind of what everybody comes to class thinking of, isn't it? That we're going to go to class and we're going to learn X, Y, and Z, whether that's whether that's gun dogs, whether that's obedience, whatever it might be. And I think as well, it's kind of hard to create that shift of expectations from a client's point of view, isn't it? Like, because they're coming to, you know, we're going to do, I don't know, for example, let's just say we're learning sit down and stay or something. It's I teach agility, I don't really teach obedience, so forgive me if that's not what we're learning in classes. But just for an example, they're coming and they go, oh, by the end of this lesson I'll know a sit down and a stay or whatever. But then what you're finding is they'll come into the room and they've, you know, got no, I don't like to use the word no relationship, but kind of no interaction together. That's the only kind of way that I can describe it. And you're like thinking, you know, I know we've spoken about this before in our pre-podcast chat, and it's like, you just pick up on it. I think sometimes we just instinctively know we need to do a little bit more here. But
they've been taught the mechanics of something.
And it's kind of like changing that expectation and actually making it, I think there's kind of loads of layers to it, because it's kind of the neurotypical handler coming in and expecting X, Y, and Z, but then there's us as a neurodivergent, you know, business owner, dog trainer, going actually, or, you know, using you term it energetics, don't you? We're going to get onto what exactly that means in a little while, but just noticing there's a little bit more going off here. So it's kind of, how do we change the expectations of what this client is expecting, but also what this dog needs, but also in a way that's kind of not making that partnership seem excluded from the rest of the group. Because I think there's nothing worse, is it, when you go to a group and you're like, oh, I've got, you know, I was at the receiving.
You have to go and sit on the side or whatever.
We've got the naughty dog in the corner or whatever and doing this. And I think it's because dog training is so traditional. On week one, we're going to work on X, Y, and Z, and we'll have a plan and this, that, that, and the other. I think it's the way that I used to do things. I'm not sure if you are the same. We kind of have a rough plan as such, but I never tell the clients what it is. I never tell them, because you never know what you're going to get on that day. And even
I agree, yeah,
from a neurodivergent point of view, you might need to work on something completely different because they've had a bad experience, or they've had a bad day, or they're having a down day, or whatever it is. So it's hard, isn't it, to kind of manage expectations. And how do you cope with that kind of side of things, and how do you put that across from a client point of view, if you know what I mean?
Well, I think as well, there's a couple of things. So just going back a little bit, I remember when I first started agility with my boy Cody. And I remember it was there was a field, and then they had up like the construction type fencing, and the stuff was in there. But he used to find me outside and up a hill, because he used to shout so much whenever it wasn't his go. He couldn't cope with things not being his go. And what I thought was lovely about that was there was no shame in that at this group. It wasn't like, go stand in the hill because we can't stand listening to that or whatever. It was like, I could just go do that and give him space and reward him for the being quiet and watching and all of that things. And I think the whole being able to convey non-judgmental stuff is massive, especially when most divergents are already judging themselves enough. They just don't need that added. I know I don't. And then I mean, I've digressed, and I've forgotten the original question about my clients. But working with them and their dogs, I try basically to just kind of, like you said, go with the flow. In that I might have somebody, say, on a program. So all mine are one-to-ones. I don't do groups. And so I might have somebody join me for a program, and therefore we have a plan. Like they want an end result of a dog that doesn't disappear in a bush for 15 minutes. That's a popular one. And so we have that in mind. But like you said, I might think, right, well, last week went like this, and therefore this week is my plan. And the owner turns up, and again, another really good example where mindful walking really helped. Owner turns up, dog completely running off, not retrieve it, and a dog who can do all of those, standing on its head. And you're like, whoa, what is occurring here today, and then doing that work with the owner. And again, just in this right, we're just going to take a moment, blah blah blah, and then the dog just going like, yay, great, lovely, now I can work with you. And it's just, I don't know, just maybe putting it forward as just like, we're just going to do this task, we're just going to do this small thing. I teach a lot of small breath work things to help reset when people are getting wound up, or mindfulness on walks and things like that. And just being able to offer small resets that don't feel like these huge judgy, what's wrong with you this week type of affairs, and being flexible, like you said, just going, well, I did have a plan, but that's now maybe not my plan. I might introduce it later when things are back, but we're just going to sidestep for a bit. And the same for the dog. You could have a really good session with a dog, and then suddenly something gets introduced and it overloads it more than you expected it would. I don't know, going from a dummy to a fluffy dummy, and suddenly it's mind blown, and so you adjust, don't you? And you go, right, well, let's come back down to earth.
Definitely. And I think that's super important, isn't it? And I think a lot of what you do is probably similar to me, and a lot of our messaging and the stuff that we put out there says that we work with well, definitely our mind, I'm just presuming from what you said this is what you do, but our messaging is kind of, we work with both ends of the leads. And so when clients come to us, they expect that kind of, they're going to help me just as much as they're going to help the dog. And I think that's really important, isn't it, when you, especially in the dog world, that we put that out there, that because sometimes even as neurotypicals we can feel like overwhelmed and like, this is too much, and I've got this dog that I was expecting, and actually what's happening to me is a completely different kettle of kind of thing. And I think it's hard, isn't it, when you get those people that have these goals and dreams and desires, and then actually what they've got is they need to completely work with something that never even thought. And from an agility perspective, I see it all of the time where it's kind of like they want and it happened to me, I suppose, with my young dog. I've had two grade 7 dogs, and I got a new dog, and I thought, oh, okay, that'll be fine, we'll just do the
be my next step kind of thing.
We'll do the next foundations, it'll be fine. And because he was super anxious, and because it was end of lockdown and timing and all of that, but also because he picked up on my anxieties and stuff that I hadn't worked through, that I thought I had, that had come back and gone, actually, I'm going to take you on the shoulder and you need to work on this a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like changing those expectations. In a way, it's worked out really well for me, because it's made me change my whole business, my whole, client base, and I put it out in my messaging. But
got the dog you needed.
That's it. It's exactly right. You get the dog you need, not the dog that you want. But I think when it's just at an owner level, it can be quite hard, can't it? You will expect to have this dog, or even like from somebody that's been competing in agility a long time, so to speak. I don't know if it's similar with gundog trials. It doesn't matter. You get you and the dog, so the team that steps on that start line on that actual moment. It's not even on the day, because there's so many variables that can make feel a different way, make them feel a different way. And I think I always talk about it in agility, where the owner has, like, we've got the ego side of the brain, haven't we? The handle the ego and everything that they want, but then we've got the dog and what actually is happening actually in that moment. And I think that's where it can be really, really, I wouldn't like to use the word dangerous, but kind of, I'm going to use that word because my brain can't think of a different one. Dangerous, because that's when those cracks appear, doesn't it? That's when that energy and things start to disperse, because the owner's putting this pressure on and the dog can't cope with this. It's picking up on it, and those cracks disappear. So I know that energetics is what you work with a lot in your business. Could you just explain that a little bit more for people who are listening that might not understand what energetics are?
Yeah, so it is a difficult one if you haven't worked with it, or you don't have an understanding of it. I mean, I remember growing up, I was always very much about just hanging around animals and feeling and things, but didn't actually really know what energetics were as a thing. They were just how I was around animals. But I actually ended up falling into Reiki, which is an energy technique. Many moons ago, like 2006 or something. I think I did my actual Reiki master teacher level, but so it'd been a couple of years before that I found it. And it's basically, Reiki is just a system that introduces you to how to work with energy and sense it better and to grow that connection, basically. But everybody has it. It's not something special. You're not some magic person. Everybody has it. And I normally describe it in ways people can understand, in that really good example is if anybody's house hunted, and there'll be a house you turn up at and you just want to get in the car and leave, and there's nothing necessarily bad about the house, but just energetically you're like, no, I don't even want to walk around this, and now I have to because I've got to be polite, but from the off, like there's just something, and you haven't seen something and gone, oh, but I hate the fountain or the drive, or it's a heartfelt thing. Or the other good example is, queuing in a supermarket, because everybody's done this, where you're queuing at a till and somebody stands next to you and it's not a problem. You might even chat to them or whatever. But another day, somebody could stand that exact distance from you and you just want to shimmy over all the time and you just want to get space. And it's that energetic, like, grating. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person or anything like that. It's just that conflict of energies that you have, that energetic person that you are. And dogs are super sensitive with it. I mean, we see body language from a point of view of, like, if you look at a couple of dogs interacting, and you might see, those turns and things, but there's also is a lot of push and pull energy going on in that moment. It isn't just, a static body doing a static movement. And that, I think, is where it comes in, where you see, a dog who's like, no, I don't want to work with that today. And you shift the energy, and then they're like, okay, I can work with that, But it's at play all the time. And you'll see it as well. I find a lot of gun dogs struggle with, and this, again, it's a bit of a blanket statement, but with like hall type classes, where they're so sensitive, and then they're stuck in a building and the energy can't dissipate. And you get all these different energies just building up for the whole hour they're in there. And it blows a lot of the really sensitive ones' minds. And that's actually what happened with my first dog. He just didn't handle those kinds of classes at all. He would only be naughty and silly. But that was all I saw at the time, naughty and silly. But actually, if I saw that now, I'd go, there's a dog not coping. There's a dog that needs not to be in this hall. But take him anywhere and do outdoor stuff. Different thing, because the energy doesn't stick around, it dissipates, it's got everywhere to go. So you could have whatever energies you want around, and they're all just disappearing. They're not collecting. And as probably a lot of neurodivergents, we're really sensitive to things, and I definitely, like, I don't, enjoy being stuck in places with lots of people, and it isn't just the noise and everything, it is that whole feeling, that vibration. So yeah, and they are just really, you know, all animals, they're just super tuned into it, super aware of it. We don't realize half of what they realize just naturally. So it's just trying to help owners to understand that a little bit and to work with it a little bit, and to, you know, maybe look at themselves a little bit. That's a lot of what I offer.
That's amazing. It's interesting what you were saying there, as you described it as being like in the halls or in the traditional type settings where the energy's got nowhere to go. And it was because I always talk about when I talk about behavior, and you know how our dogs have got their own kind of like little stress bucket and things and everything, you know, and triggers kind of thing. But also when you get a collective of dogs together, you get like a group bucket. And I suppose that's kind of a level of what I'm talking about there, but I didn't link the two together. I always said, well, you know, you get a group, and it can be, they can feed off each other's behaviors and all of that, but also on a deeper level, you have got like that energetics bucket, haven't you, where it's all
absolutely
kind of, and it makes sense then that it hasn't got anywhere to go because you're in this kind of, you know, in this hall or whatever. And I suppose you see it a lot in indoor agility shows when they go indoors in the winter. There's a lot of craziness and all of that kind of thing. It's like, completely just makes sense to me now, because like there's
a total different kettle of fish, isn't it? And you get a lot more, you know, dogs that will, you know, pop off at other dogs and things like that, because it's just so, there's just nowhere, it just builds and builds, and it's just like this manic vibration.
I always say that.
Another good example I had from many years ago was my boy Cody trying to get help with the loose lead walking. Because the reason why I got into the gun dog element of it was basically as a puppy I struggled with him with all different things. He was lovely, super intelligent, but super sensitive, but he had a big need to work that I didn't know or understand. But once I found the right person for that, it was wonderful. But in trying to find the right person, obviously we went to various people, and you know, I remember going to this one trainer. Now this was a teenage 36 kilo entire male Weimaraner. And so he would, you know, I could pass you the lead, he'd play up for you, he'd drag you around a bit, you know, I hadn't learnt to train him properly and whatever, I was doing my best. And no word of a lie, the guy just took hold of his lead and he did not put a foot out of wrong. He was right by this guy's side. He, you know, he collected himself right up and he would not put a foot out of line. And you can't tell me that's not energetics. Because he just knew he couldn't afford to.
Interesting. It is,
you know, you've never met the guy before.
It is. It's interesting, isn't it? I suppose that's it as well. And I think that's what's you know, I'm using the word dangerous a lot today, but this is not a word I normally pick out of my vocabulary. It's coming out to play today. But it's kind of what's dangerous as well in the world with when it comes to aversives. And I know because a lot of people see that as kind of, well, it is compliance, isn't it? The dog is complying because they don't want this bad energy. They don't want bad things to happen to them. Whereas if you're not aware of that, and you know, it's kind of two levels, isn't it? I suppose if you're not aware of it from like an energetics point of view, but also from a behavior point of view, where the behavior
looks miraculous, doesn't it?
And it's like to the pet owner that doesn't know, they're like, oh wow, my, you know, you see on the internet all the time, don't you? Like, oh, he's sorted my loose lead walking, and within one session, within an hour. And it's like, you know, that's going to have a fallout at some point, but
that's it. And even at that point in time, because I didn't know body language back then, but I knew that was my dog collecting himself up. I could feel his energy just suck on in, and that he was not relaxed. And you know, quite often people bring dogs to me and I can loose lead walk them from the off, but because mine's confidence, mine's just like everything will be fine and I'm super chill and whatever. But the difference in that is that, you know, they float off happy and they're wagging and they're like, oh, cool, lovely. And I'll have a sweet. And, you know, it's a totally different vibe. But no, this was very much a just collect myself up and walk very carefully and be very careful type of vibe.
And I think it's one of those things, like what somebody said to me once when I started learning dog behavior, like once you know dog behavior, you can't unsee it. And I think talking to you as well, it goes on a different level when you can kind of feel those energies. Like I see a lot at agility shows, and it's not like, for me, it's not necessarily that the owner is doing anything wrong or they're not purposely being nasty to the dog, so they're not being aversive or anything like that, but you can just those energies are off and you can tell that And you're like, I get this feeling, I'm watching them, I'm like, oh, poor dog or whatever, or they're
it's not being able to quite see them, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like it goes back to the goals thing, that we have our goals for what we want to achieve and things.
Yeah.
And it's like there might be a dog who's not particularly happy, they're just coping, you know. Definitely had plenty of occasions with that with my first dog, where, you know, I just hadn't got a clue what I was doing. And, you know, they're not coping, but you're just not seeing it.
Yeah.
But once you can see it and you can feel it, it's just different.
Yeah, it is. It's different. And I think that's what the dog world needs, isn't it? And I think that it's the trouble with the society that we've been brought up in at the minute, because everything's fast paced. Everything's like, oh, let's do this quicker. Let's make things easier. Let's, you know, we don't need to take any cash or a card. We can pay for things with our phone or our watch or stuff. And I'm not at that level yet. I've never paid for anything.
No, me neither.
Well, you can do. All the trendy kids do it, don't they? But it's I think that society means that quicker results, but easier things for us and things. And I think when you're fair enough from a human point of view, but when we're working with animals that have feelings, that have needs, and that have emotions, it isn't that simple, is it? It's not as simple as just, you know, I know.
And it's pressure as well, isn't it? The pressure to have, you know, quote unquote, that good dog. And it's like, it's got nothing to do with good and bad dogs. I mean, I saw a comment on Facebook the other day about a dog who had done something, and somebody had made this comment about, you know, if that was my dog, it wouldn't be my dog anymore. And it was like it had done a dog thing that a dog would do. It wasn't a bad dog. It was an owner who hadn't taken responsibility, basically. But, you know, it's that pressure to have, you know, that perception. And I don't know about you, but I think it is extra hard for neurodivergents, because we've been so judged. It's really hard then to maybe have something on the end of our lead that draws attention to us for more judging.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
You know, it's like we're struggling enough to kind of make it through our day and avoid being judged for just, you know, existing. And then add a dog with any kind of issue. It could just be pulling on the leash. And suddenly you feel like you're walking along being double judged, because now you also can't, you know, you can't keep this dog under control, and people maybe don't think it's I have a lot of people when they first approach me to talk about their dog issues, where they're so desperate to tell me it's a good dog. You know, before we even get to behavior, there'll be like 10-15 minutes of all the good stuff about this dog, and it's like they just want me to know it's a good dog first. And obviously I know that, but they feel the need to convey that before they then go, and this is my problem. And I think that tells a lot of where people are at and how they feel.
Yeah, definitely. That's interesting, like you say, looking at it from pressure from that point, because I think this pressure is one of those things that we put on ourselves, but as you say, as a neurodivergent, we put it on ourselves even more. But then if we are in, so for example, if you take like what I do as agility, having a dog that, you know, as an agility trainer, as a behavior specialist, you put this pressure on yourself that this dog's going to come out and it's going to just be perfect, because, you know, I teach this every day. But
yes, that's right. Yes, it was.
Understanding that it's hard, because, and this is why I'm so open about everything I do, like with the neurodivergence, with everything, because it's like, I'm human too. I have bad days. I have days where my family.
Yeah, me too. I always say that to my clients.
Like, you come up and like, yes, you know, nobody's perfect. We're all learning. Our dogs have bad days as well. And it's kind of like, you know, this kind of stuff happens. You know, we'll go on a start line, and yes, you know, you might, you know, one day you might go and it might be fantastic. You might run around completely connected and have a brilliant round. But sometimes you might just be frustrated. You might have just had a row with your other half, or something like wrong, or you may not have eaten enough, or whatever that might be, and the energies are just off. And I think that's it. We put this pressure on ourselves we're in front of everybody's watching us, we're going to get criticized anyway, we need to do well because we're a trainer, and before you know it, the dog's gone, don't think so. Like, not today, which then makes it even worse, because you're like then expecting an outcome and you don't get that outcome. And then I think for me, I've learned now, one of the things is knowing and getting my diagnosis is actually, this is completely normal. It's why I'm so open about it. I'm like, this happens. And I think as well, what makes it easier for me is the fact that I am open about it being a process. And you know, I'm not you know, I'm not one of these people that go, I know I've got an agility dog and by 18 months it'll be in the ring. I'm like, it'll take as long as it takes, because he's got his own stuff to work on, but so have I, and that's going to change every single day. And I think that's as well, especially in a competitive sport. I don't know if you get this in the gundog world. I'm not really sure how trials and stuff works, but we're putting this expectation on us to be, you know, to get to a certain level, to do that kind of thing. And you know, like with Quest, he's 4 and he's only just going to start doing his agility rounds. He's been doing steeplechase and jumping because I've been working on confidence, I've been working on distractions, I've been working on our relationship, and you know, it is fun to play this game and these people watching, but it's fine, you know, that kind of
yeah.
I'm not going to throw extra pressure on him to like now learn a dog walk or now learn this. That stuff can wait, you know what I mean? Like I say, 4 years on, we're at the point where we can bring it in, and that's fine for me because I lowered those expectations.
Because you're good with it.
I think it's pressure is,
and it is similar because obviously we have task-based stuff as well. So it's like, you know, you might want this retrieve or this hunting or this water stuff or what. I mean, I remember again taking Faith, my third one, on a, I think it was it was a working test. It was a test, and they'd moved water because the water was a bit too dangerous. So we went to this almost trickly type place to do it. And so there was a lot of pebbles and water ripples over the top, and it was very different. It wasn't just like sploshy as water. And when I went to send her over it, and it should have been easy when you looked at it because there was less water than normal. But she was always funny with entries. And when I went to send her, she actually did the opposite. She turned around and started running up and down the bank, ripping grass up and chucking it around. And the first thing I was told was to get on her, get after her. She's, you know, taking the mickey and blah, 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 blah. And it was like, she wasn't. She was really stressed about the thought of this water entry. So it was just displacing by doing silly things, very much like her dad. You know, and the last thing she needed was someone to then get after her and tell her off and make her cross this river kind of thing. It's you know, but it is very task based, so you want to achieve like a clean retrieve and all those kind of things. And but I mean, I have it. So whilst I obviously teach the gun dog work and I specialize in working with the gun dogs, I actually have spent time in the agility world with Cody and Rhea, and you know, we've dabbled in tracking and blood tracking, and I've competed in obedience. And basically what I do is what dog comes along wants to do. So I'm happy to, like, I never planned on doing obedience, but my girl Faith literally came out the womb hill walking beautifully. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go find an obedience class and we'll have a go at that, you know. I think I've digressed again. I'll do that. It's part of my divergent. That's what I was going to say to you. When you think about how many things affect you, like, you know, not just as a human, but then as a, you know, neurodivergent, and you think about all of that going to that one competition, you know roughly what your things are, don't you? So it's like, for me, it would be like too much noise, too crowded, like I'm sensitive to stuff. So all of those kind of things. But I know that, and I can tell people that, and I can go, you know, can I have some space or whatever? But you think none of our dogs can turn around and go, this is how I'm at today. This is what I can and can't do today. So again, like a lot of the times you might turn up and done a load of perfect stuff and turn up perfect yourself and still have a dog. I mean, I remember taking Cody to an agility show once, and Rhea was in season at home, and we got in the ring and he did a beautiful weight, and I released him, and instead of doing what he was supposed to do, he ran around all the equipment like a maniac with his tongue lolling out, shooting over tunnels, up A-frames and whatever, and then came and sat in front of me, and I thanked the judge and we left. You know, they don't always express it quite so clearly, but you know, I knew where that was coming from, and we were just like, that's fine, we'll just drive home, you know.
That's it. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's when we know as trainers as well, and as neurodivergents, we tend to pick up on all those little micro things that maybe others don't. So we're like, I know one of the things, and this is why I had a massive shift in my business, because I spent a lot of time training beginners, just basic kind of things, but my brain is completely details driven. It's very like, no, things. And so for like beginners, nothing wrong with teaching beginners, but for me, I'm like, you know, it didn't quite align. And what actually ended up happening, you know, was I was masking quite a lot, and they was having a brilliant time still, getting a good service, but I was home exhausted, and now I couldn't put my finger on it until after my diagnosis. And I'm like, this kind of makes sense, because we tell it ourselves all of those stories, don't we? Oh, I need to be teaching beginners, I'm not good enough to do anything else, and this and the other, and
or I need to do group classes or whatever, you know, and whatever the norm is.
Yeah, it comes back to that pressure again, doesn't it? But what I found is that as soon as I started, kind of, I think for me, the biggest things of when it comes to my neurodivergence is number one, being aware of it, because I wasn't aware of it until certain things started happening in my life, and then I became aware of it.
Me
then
too.
it's kind of accepting it. And then then it's like understanding it, and then knowing it's okay just to put yourself out there, because we're so used to, you're a bit weird, you're the odd one out, or you're this, that, and the other. And so actually dipping our toes in the water and going, actually, this is who I am. And it's kind of, when you first start doing it, because all of the stuff that I do now openly with my agility behavior, I've always been doing since I started. But what I did is I did it in hidden groups. I would have like Facebook groups or clients, and I wouldn't tell the larger world. And what kind of happened to me is, I was solving all of these people's issues and giving them really fantastic, agility dogs, and they were flying up the grade, but I was keeping it secret. But also, so they weren't telling anybody. And I was like, oh, okay. And it got to a point where, my RSD kicked in, and it was kind of like, what would happen to me is, it was training with me, and I used to describe it as feeling like they were training with me in secret, because it wouldn't anything. But then, because in agility you've got all the top handlers and all of that, they tag all of those on Facebook, and I'm like, well, that made my RSD worse. Like, what's wrong with me?
What about me?
That's it.
I know I played a part.
This is it. And it was like, okay. And then I spoke to somebody about, I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody in the spiritual kind of world. And they said it's because you're keeping it secret. That
I was just going to say it's the energetics.
It is. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So now I've started saying about it more, beautiful things happened, and other people start talking about it more. And it's hard from a neurodivergent point of view, isn't it, to put yourself out there? And it's having that confidence to, first of all, be aware of it, then accept it, then actually go, do you know what, this is who I am. And for me, what happened was, like, since then I've attracted a lot, magnetized, like the clients that are meant for me. I get a lot of neurodivergent people, or people that suffer with anxiety or confidence issues, or those kind of things. And do you find that in your work as well? Do you kind of attract those kind of neurodivergent clients, or maybe not neurodivergent clients, but tends to be
a hell of a lot. A lot of people will do a session, and I'll sort of pick up on various things, and then eventually, like, after a couple conversation comes around, and they'll be like, oh yes, I've been diagnosed with this, and the other half's diagnosed with that, and all that kind of thing. So I do, and I do think it is because you kind of start, as a neurodivergent, you begin to recognize safe spaces, don't you? And I'm very much like, you just are not going to get judged. You're not. I'm going to find out how I can work with you to make this workable for you, and it isn't just about your dog. There's no point in me. So I jam a lot into an hour. So we'll cover loads in an hour. But for people on programs, they get all their notes and stuff afterwards so that they can practice on it. So some people might get 5 or 6 really key things to do just in the week in between, and some people will get 2. Because I'm like, I can't give them 5 or 6, because then that's a hideous week that never wants to get going. Sometimes it might be 1. If I can feel where they're at that week, I might just go, this week I want you to do that, and it'll be really simple and really achievable, and just that, nothing else. Don't worry about any of the rest of it. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's seeing the people and not just the dogs, and going, the dog needs this week. Well, so what if the owner can't do that? That's it's not helpful to either of them.
Definitely. And I think that's it, isn't it? It all comes back to that recognizing not only the dog's needs, but the human's needs as well, and also giving him something that is manageable, because ultimately, otherwise they're not going to have the success, because they're going to think, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm not going to do this. And it might be that the dog needs X, Y, and Z, but there's no point in setting that as a task if the humans are completely
too overwhelming to start. Absolutely. No, definitely.
When it comes to your own neurodivergence and things, when it comes to running your own business, have you found that it's either like helped or hindered? What, like, for me, I think it's a bit of both. And some days I'll be like, it depends if it's my ADHD brain or my autism brain that wakes up. Sometimes I'll be hyper focused. I like the routine, but then sometimes it's both a help and a hindrance, because you're like, if you're waking up and you're like, oh, I want routine today, and that's what fits with you, then that's brilliant. But sometimes it can be a bit of a pain as well, can't it? Have you found that you've had to adapt what you do for your own business, and how has that kind of worked for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bit like you say, it's the ups and downs of it, isn't it? So I love a bit of hyper focus. I've just written, I don't know, 2 or 3 online courses this week, because I'm just on it. But next week will be the opposite, and I'll be struggling. I think the bonus of running your own business means that you can just, on a week like next week's likely to be, go do your client and get their things over to them, and then just go, right, sofa, duvet, recovery time. And you don't necessarily in other forms of work have that available to you. Just have to push on and end up burnt out. But equally, it is hard on times where you know you've got something to do, and then you're just stuck, and you're like, I don't have it in me. Like it's not available to me currently to get this done, and I have to get it done. So it's the ups and downs, I think. But overall, for me, I think if I wasn't who I am, I don't think I'd be half as good at what I do. I don't think the energetics would be as easy. And I don't think I'd have the chance to help as many dogs as I do and their owners. And, you know, I think any of us that work positively and reward based, like the more of us there are in the world, like yay for the dogs and their owners, basically.
Yeah, that's it. It is. And I think that's a very important point you touched on there, is it's kind of like that being flexible, because we often we're flexible with the dogs. We now are learning to be more flexible with the owners, but also flexible for ourselves as well, and understanding that we have needs as well. And it's about setting those boundaries, isn't it? And setting those rules, and kind of, I say rules and boundaries, and they seem quite, you know, structured and what have you, but it might just be, oh, I'm high focusing today, so let's just get this done because I know, and
let's make the most of it. That's right. And then be okay to crash after and go, like, I know it's coming, and that's fine. And it is also the way you build your business, isn't it? So, you know, for me, I absolutely love programs, because like you, like the beginning bits of things I can help people with, but what I really want are the problems. I want the dogs that disappear into a bush for 15 minutes and don't come back. I want those to come to me. I want the dogs that drag their owners down the road to come to. I like to be able to work with those dogs and help turn things around for them and their owner. I like things to be deep, basically. And so that's why I offer my programs, because I love to work a lot closer with people. I like the fact that they can send me videos and message me in between and get support in that week in between. So it isn't just when I see you for a one-off and then building on that next one-off. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I love a good program where I really get to know someone and their dog properly and build a proper relationship, you know, and lovely. The kind of people that I deal with, you know, they might finish their program and months later I suddenly get an update again, which I love. I love to hear like years down the line, like how people are getting on. And so it's building something you can work with, knowing how you work, isn't it? And what you can cope with. Like, I can't go out there and go, oh, do you know what? Saturday mornings I'm going to do like all group classes all day long. I would be one hot burnt out mess at the end. Whereas I think when I work one-to-one, personally, I get so much back out of the transformation that gives me energy. It is that energetic exchange, you know, whereas
it is that
I find when you're juggling a class, especially like you were saying about noticing micro stuff, I feel beholden to every single person and dog in that class. So I'm giving to everyone in every moment, not just the dog in front of me that might be doing an exercise. You know, I've constantly got my eyes and ears everywhere, and that's just too much for me. Much better one-to-one.
And it's interesting as well, talking about it from an energetics kind of point of view. It makes so much sense. And like I said with you on a pre-podcast chat, I'm like, I think I'm kind of like working with this kind of stuff, but haven't labeled it, and you know, I'm not delved into the depths of all the meanings or anything like that. But I think it is that it's kind of like you talked about, that energetic exchange between things. And I think that is what is really important when it comes to getting the clients that are right for us, isn't it? Because if we get looking at it from a compliance point of view, and they're not going to do the work of the homework for X, Y, and Z, but actually looking at it on a deeper level, if there's an energetic mismatch, you're not going to get it either, are you? If someone's not kind of your wavelength. So, and I think that is what I was experiencing, and I always talk to my clients, whether that's coaching clients, whether that's agility clients, about was having this battery. This, like, people speak about social battery, but for me, it's more than just a social battery. It's like
absolutely,
battery. You'll have things that you know, charge you up, and you'll have things that drain you. And I think it's kind of like that, isn't it? On an energetics level, it can just be, you know, it might not be. A lot of the time for neurodivergent people, or for me, it's not a physical thing. It's an energetic thing, and it's just, you know,
it is, absolutely.
Yeah, being around the, you know, if you're spending all day with a mismatch of clients, and that's what was happening with me, yeah, and I was putting so much energy into it, but coming home and I was literally had to, like, you know, lie down on the floor, and I was dizzy. I was like, I've got a massive headache. What on earth is going on? I couldn't
because you've just
understand what
given
it
and
was.
given and given and given. Yeah.
And I think that's why it's really important, isn't it, to know what's right for you and being flexible for you as much as it is for the dogs and the owners that we work with. So when it
And
comes,
that goes back to your voice as well, doesn't it? Because by putting out your right voice, you get your right client, and both you, the client, and the dog all benefit. Because it's the perfect match.
Yeah, definitely. So if anybody's listening that you think that might think, oh, I'm a bit worried about, you know, doing things my way and that kind of thing, what kind of advice would you give them? Like, whether that's a neurodivergent dog owner or whether that's a business owner, what kind of, you know, advice would you say to, you know, to put themselves out there but do it in a way that sits well with them, if that makes sense?
So my first one would be definitely always trust your instincts.
Yeah.
And don't, my biggest thing on instincts is don't even ask why. Like, you know, people will say, like, after events are, I just knew, like, there was something I knew. And it's like, so everyone will have had an experience in their life where they were just like, I just knew, but I didn't know why. Don't bother with the why. Don't ask why. It doesn't matter why. If your gut feels funny good or funny bad, just follow it. Like, don't look for the why, because I've signed up to all sorts of random things that I'm like, I don't even know why I've signed up to, but I just do. Like, I'll go down a rabbit hole and end up doing it. And then I'm just like, oh, that's why I did that. And it could be years later that I suddenly go, oh, there was a point. I thought there wasn't after I did it because I couldn't find out where that fitted, but there was a point. And I think as well, like, just being open to all sorts of things as well. So, you know, if you've opened an email for some reason that you wouldn't normally open, like, take a moment, like, why did you end up opening that particular one? Do you feel like there might be more to it or whatever? Because often we don't allow ourselves to be led because we're so busy with our mind on how things should look and how things should turn out and should be, that actually, you know, we walk past a bunch of opportunistic roads because we're going, well, no, a bit like, you know, oh, but I should do that beginners one and I should do a group class. And, you know, I mean, I've fallen for it a couple of times where I thought, you know, I should, I'll put that group class on again. And, you know, the universe goes, no. And I'm like, yeah, why did I do that? It's not me. Like, I just did it because I felt I should, or because I was having a fearful moment or some random rubbish, you know, but nothing in my gut said this was a good idea. It was my head just going, go on, do it. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And that's really important, isn't it? Because like you say, we often get caught up with the, you know, what's happening on the internet and what everybody else is doing and things. And it's like we do things, and I've definitely been in that position. But it's like, you know, everybody's doing group classes, everybody's doing workshops, and then you're like, well, actually, you know, oh, I need to be teaching groups, or, you know, somebody might be thinking, oh, I want to do one-to-ones, or but everybody else going against that grain is really, really hard sometimes for a neurodivergent.
And seeing, like, you know, oh, I made like X amount this month or whatever. And you're like, oh, right, well, they're doing group classes. I should probably do those because that's how they made. No, they made that amount by following what was right for them.
Yes.
You know? As you said, group classes tire you out. So if you put on a load of group classes hoping to make whatever X that you saw somebody made, you're going to do the opposite. You won't even be able to deliver what you want to deliver in the things you do enjoy, because you know you're going to end up coming home and feeling ill and ruined. So, and then I think the one I'm trying to follow myself at the moment is, like you said, the trying not to be afraid to be different. Because I've been very much like you, like, my clients know what I do and what I do works brilliantly for them, but I'm not very good at shouting about it. I mean, I literally posted on social media only last week about, you know, I'm going to stand out and put this post out here about what I do. And the reason why I don't normally say it is because, especially energetics is something where you get all these people going, you know, show me the science and things like that. And it's not like the science not out there. It's like, but I'm not the kind of person who wants to go digging around to find it, because I very much am gut and instinct led. So if you want to find the science, you go look it up. It's there. But it's that whole people coming with the arguments, you know, it's like, if it's not for you, just follow someone else's page where it is for you. So just trying to speak up a bit more. And my biggest thought is just kind of trying to go back to, like, who am I doing it for? I'm doing it for the people like me years ago who had the sensitive gundog and couldn't find the right people and did drive home in tears. And, you know, I want to be the person who offers different to those kind of people, basically. And I want people to understand their dogs as energetics massively. The last course that I put out last week, that's literally all about trying to help people who maybe haven't done Reiki or don't want to or whatever, to just understand like the energetics their dog might be, and how that might, you know, relate to their energetics, and where their conflicts might be and where their good bits will be. But yeah, I call it the missing piece, as in PEACE, and I really think it is. And I just want to talk more about that. And I think own whatever you're different, just try and get it out there. And
amazing. That's what I was going to ask you, actually, because I know we chatted a bit before about it, about this course that you got coming out. So if anybody is listening that is new to kind of that kind of thing, I suppose your course would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? As in to say, you know, because can you tell them a little bit about the course and what they can expect? Is it for anybody who's never done that kind of thing before? What can they expect from it?
Yeah, so for this one, this isn't necessarily about working with energy, although I have a bunch of other different courses that have, you know, different bits of energetics peppered throughout. Other than actually learning something like Reiki, I don't have a full-on let's deep dive into energetics. But what this one is it's the real bottom rung of, basically it's questionnaires, as in like, in this situation, do you feel XYZ? How does your dog react in this situation? So that essentially you can end up with one elemental element that is more your element, and one that is more your dog. So it's basically, you know, the fire, air, earth, water, ether type thing. So you will end up basically being more fire or more ether, which is sort of, you know, the spirit connected type person. And then once you've got your major, and some people might have more than one major, I've got a friend whose dog sort of sat between two, but once you've got that, you can find out a bit more about what would spark that dog or yourself, or what would dampen that kind of energy. Also what would balance it more, and where you might then have a conflict, you know, if you've got, say, like fire and water, and you're all fiery and they're all like emotional, like how can you balance that out a little bit more, yourself and your dog, to find a bit of a better, but from a purely energetics point of view. So there isn't a, you know, go out and teach your dog XYZ because that would suit it kind of thing. And then there are just some small tiny things you can do in there relating to, you know, what elemental you or your dog might be, to just sort of work on it a little bit. So there's a couple of practical bits, but it's really like that intro level of what is my dog, and how do we gel energetically, basically.
And I suppose as well, that sounds really interesting. It's definitely piqued my interest. So I'm like, that sounds really interesting. We'll put a link to it underneath the podcast as well, so people can
fab, lovely. It's nice and simple.
But I suppose as well, it's kind of like, for me, it sounds very much like a starting point. So I suppose I've always kind of spoke about it in terms of relationship, and a relationship is kind of a word that I didn't really like using because it sounds harsh, doesn't it? So it sounds harsh, like to work on the relationship with your dog. I might kind of rephrase what I say, and I might let's just change the energetics, because that sounds a lot doesn't it? So I might if that's all right, and go with that.
Absolutely. And I think with energetics as well, like there's a lot more flow to that. I think when you talk about relationships, people feel like you're talking about whether or not, again, you're a good or a bad person. And it's like, you know, you do this, is that thing good or bad? Like that whole labeling type thing. Whereas energetics flows, you know, like, and it is also things like going back to the divergent. So, you know, I might be more emotional, watery, you know. So what does that look like on a good or bad day? You know, because when I'm flowing, that water's working for me beautiful, and that's where I'm connected, and I'm feeling that, like, I feel a lot of people and dogs, you know, where you just know, like, there's more to what's been said or that kind of thing, but you feel it inside. But like on a bad day, I'm swamped. I'm so overloaded with all the emotions that I pick up that I just need a duvet over my head and to be left alone. You know? And that doesn't really make me feel judged as a good or bad person the way it might be if you spoke about it as me as a personality or something. It is my energetics and the way energetics affect me, and what can I do to make sure I don't get emotionally overloaded and swamped. And
I think that's it. I think you've just given me a whole new like language of being able to, because I've always
love
felt
that.
Yeah, I feel like they always say that people come into your life for a reason. And I think that's definitely
absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I think, like I say, I have never felt comfortable with saying relationship, and I've kind of not really said it because it's kind of like, again, it's that judgment, it's that good and bad thing, and like everybody's got a relationship with their dog at some level, but like you say, I do think it is that energetics, like that some, and even I think that's what I talk about when I say when you stand on that start line, you come in with a whole load of stuff, but you also energy that you bring to the thing. So thank you.
Absolutely. You are welcome.
So I think it's amazing. It's just giving me that whole, because I didn't feel comfortable with it. Like you know, you can't say to somebody you've got a bad relationship, but it's a lot easier to say, let's just work on today the energetics today or something. And you can't like the same thing, but it's just used in that way that it's non-judgmental and that.
And I'll tell you what, on that, it's completely not related to this actual moment, but I must tell you about this because it is completely energetics related. I can't remember if when we caught up before I told you about my trip to Gaia House. So it's up Stonehenge direction. I have no clue where that is. Without a sat nav, I don't know where I am in the world. I'm terrible. But Gaia House, highly recommend it for anybody who's interested in these kind of things. There was another rabbit hole I ended up down. I had no plans ever to go on a silent retreat, but it ended up in my thing, and I knew it was a gut thing I should go, and I did, and I signed up and everything else, and I went and spent 3 days at this amazing place, and it is all silent. So you arrive, there is a little intro, so they take, you know, any needs you might have, whatever, and then there is a moment when it becomes silent, and you don't speak to anyone else again for like the length of whatever retreat. It could be a week, it could be 3 days, whatever you're on. And then when you're done, there is one last sort of meditation meeting, and then they go, right, anyone who wants to talk can talk, but you know, be mindful of those who still aren't ready to, or whatever. So I went on this 3-day retreat. It was bliss. Basically, there's a chart on the wall. When the next thing's going to happen, they ding a bell and you just move on to the next thing. And it's literally sitting meditation, walking meditation, working meditation, because you all have a job while you're there. Like mine was, you know, clearing the dinner hall and washing up and whatever, but you don't speak to anyone. And it is so beautiful because all judgment falls away, because you can't voice it and you can't tell anyone. You know, things like, oh, that's a really colourful hat or whatever, just don't even happen, because you can't tell someone, it disappears. So you just enter this really beautiful place where just everything just is. It's really just being. So the point in this is, basically, you know what your dog's like when you go out and come back. Like I can go for a week, come back, and Ria's like, here's a pillow I bought you because it's so wonderful to see you again, and all that kind of thing. So I'd gone for 3 days, and driving home, I'm thinking they're going to go mad when they see me. They're going to be like, oh my God, she didn't leave me forever. Open the front door. They were all curled up in their various places. They raised their head enough to look at me and all went back to sleep. Not one of them came over or did any, because my energy was just so zen. It was insane.
That's interesting.
And not one of them even bothered with me. They were just like, snooze.
That's so interesting you said that, because I had a similar thing, not knowing anything about this kind of thing. So I went last year sometime, and I went away and went to see my daughter down south, come back, and like I say, I felt, you know, lovely, relaxed, so that, and then like I was at like the expectation the dog's going to go really mad, and they came through the door and the same, they were like, oh
yeah,
hi. I was almost like a bit disappointed, but like listening to that, I'm like, oh, that makes complete sense. And it was just completely chilled out.
Just read the energy and went, she's grand, whatever.
Yeah. Amazing. So fascinating, so fascinating. I could speak to you all day about this.
I could go on forever, mate.
We're gonna finish off with some quick fire round questions so people can get to know you a little bit more. So are you ready for these? They're super difficult.
Yeah, go for it.
Here's one. Tea or coffee?
Oh God, you know, that is difficult, because I've always been tea. My nan, tea, but lately I'm trying coffee because I get migraines, and the tea's not very good for them. So I'm going to go tea.
That's it, boom. All right, and this one is going to be a difficult one, possibly. If you had to choose one, what is your favourite dog breed?
Oh, long-haired Weimaraners.
There you go.
That's a given. I just can't imagine having anything else. But I have to say, if I did have to have, if somebody said I couldn't have another long-haired Weimaraner, I do love a Spaniel.
Yeah. Team Spaniel, I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
So, what's your go-to dog product you use or recommend all the time?
Oh, well, I mean, it's not solely dogs, but it is also dogs. But for Tizo,
Right.
red light therapy thing. I don't know
yeah,
if
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love Vitizo, and the dogs love it. Like, they get really excited when they see that.
Amazing. Super. Now, if you had to choose lead walk or off-lead adventure?
Off-lead adventure. I do like an off-lead adventure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a lot of the answers are off-lead adventure, as long as we don't see anyone else. So there's that little caveat there.
yeah. I'm quite lucky, because even if we see someone else and their dog's out of control and whatever, my girl Faith normally just goes, yeah, anyway, I'm just not even gonna look at you. I'm just walking. Whatever. You don't exist.
Oh, and then the last one, what's your favorite way to recharge after a busy day?
Oh, my favorite way to this is definitely going to depend on my energetics. You might find me playing Mario Kart to unwind. You might find me reading a book. You might find me painting a D&D figure. Like, I'm definitely divergent in the amount of different things I like to do and what brings me joy. But probably my go-to that I like to do all the time is I will normally pick like one of my cards for like where I'm at and energetics and that kind of thing. And I do like certain meditation tracks. So like if I'm having a difficult day, like a meditation will just put everything right. And it hasn't got to be hours, just like a 2-minute one will just, that's better. Yeah.
Amazing. So like, every sentence you say that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, oh, we could go down such a rabbit hole with this. And like, you just said there, it depends on my energetics. I'm like, I completely get that, because some days you want to relax and do like doing activities, and some days you don't. And I've never thought about that. So I do feel like we have to have a follow-up podcast on many topics when it comes
well up for that.
So the most important part of all of this, where can people get hold of you if they want to learn more? We're going to put the link to your course under there as well, but where can they find you social media wise and anywhere else?
So confidentcanine.co.uk is my website, and there is links to all my various socials on the page. I think they're down the bottom of it. Yeah, they are. They're in the footer. So you can find all my socials on there. So that's easier. But I am on TikTok and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and all those kind of things, YouTube, whatnot. And then at the top right of my website, might be top left on a mobile, but that links to my holisticdog.uk. And that basically is where my online courses are going to be available. And I am also about to launch a Gundogs Unleashed membership, and that will be on there as well.
Amazing. And what we'll do is put all the links underneath the podcast so people can just click it and find it dead easily as well.
Fabulous.
Amazing. Super. So thank you very much for joining me today. I've really
thank you for having me.
And like I say, I definitely feel we need more podcast episodes, because my mind is pinging off going, oh, amazing, we could talk about all of
Love
these.
That.
So we'll definitely have a follow-up. Thank you for everybody that's been listening as well. And if you are listening to the podcast for the first time, make sure you hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. So thank you again to Nina for joining us, and thank you for watching or listening, depending on where you're listening from.
Thank you.